Good morning, and great morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. Hey, I am your host, Corwyn J. Melette, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, if this is your first time listening to this show, you, sir, or ma'am, are in for a treat. That is because here on this show, we're about legacy building. I always tell you, I put the hashtag on it because our mission is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education, guys. Again, that's what we do. We legacy build, right? So I want to give a quick shout out to those who listen to us faithfully from one end of town through another end and even further out there yonder out there in the country. I want to say thank y'all for listening from the coast, Hollywood, what you know, no good, up through Monkey's Corner. Y'all know my mama live out there, all the way up to Muddy Mullins in Marion County, guys. I love y'all. So thank you all for tuning in. So I'm super excited about today's show because I always love to share the experiences and I want to say the path, but sometimes it's not necessarily the path. I just really like to talk about the destination. We have those entrepreneurs, those leaders, those people who have taken what we do and talk about on this show all the time to another level. And it's always exciting and endearing to me when we get to share not only their path to get there, I guess we'll say path today, but their path to get there, but also what the destination looks like. So I'm super excited, super humble to have our guests today take time out of their busy schedule to be right here on their show. So, in our own way, please welcome Melissa Darnay with Choose Panama Real Estate to the Exit Strategy Show. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm great. A big Panama welcome to me, to you. I'm so excited to be here, bringing you some Panama sunshine.
I love it. I love it. So if you don't mind for our listeners, because I'm
Uh,
super excited to talk about this stuff today, but if you don't mind, give our listeners like that high level overview of who you are and what you do.
I'm an American. I grew up in California, then I was living in Dallas, Texas. Dallas is such an easy place to live, but if you've ever been to Dallas in the middle of summer, you feel like a turkey baking in the oven. So I had 1 year in 2012 where we actually hosted the Super Bowl in Dallas, and we had an ice storm. So here I had VIP tickets to the Super Bowl, couldn't go. Then that summer was just the hottest on record. So I just said, I'm tapping out. I want an adventure and I wanted someplace with good weather and natural beauty around me. So I happened to have gone to Panama about a year before that on vacation. And every time you go on vacation, I know a lot of you do this. You think to yourself, could I live there? Could I have a vacation house there? What would life be like if I lived somewhere else? And really, for the first time, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try. I'm still young enough. I don't wanna wait for tomorrow because we may not get it tomorrow. I was a young widow in my 30s, and I knew firsthand how, like, your tomorrow can be snatched from you. So I decided I'm gonna go. If I hate it, I'll come back. But I'm sold my house, moved my dogs, brought 5 suitcases, and landed in Panama. I knew 5 words of Spanish. I knew I had to work. So I came here with the idea to be in the real estate business, but it was amazing and scary and challenging, but it was the most awesome thing I've ever done. I love living in Panama for 1,000 different reasons. But at the very top of my list are, the weather is great all year. The humidity, we have humidity, but it's not even like Charleston. It's less than Charleston. We have most of the time the weather's in the 80s, year round. You need one set of clothes. The so much natural beauty and the people in Panama, the Latin culture is so warm and inviting and caring. They take care of me, they take care of my friends. When my mom comes to visit, she's in her 80s now, they take care of her. They wanna help her every step of the way. So I've really enjoyed being part of this culture. It's been a tremendous experience.
So for our listeners, guys, so Melissa, look, I'm gonna say it as plain as I can. It may be a little bit funny, but for some people, it's a lot real. Every 2 seconds, somebody's threatening to leave the country, right? They're like,
Right. Right.
and I'm out of here, right? There's a label for people like you that have left, not because, they left for a particular reason outside of, look, I just want to have a different experience or what have you. Again, some people leave, because they feel like I don't want to be a part of. We ain't gonna talk about that's unimportant. But for people that leave the country, migrate and go to a different country to live, such as yourself, you guys are oftentimes referred to as expats or expatriates, right?
Correct, yes. And
So
there's nothing negative about it. It's not a negative term. It's just, you know, just like you would say, "Oh, this person is blonde," or "This person is in their 50s." It's just a tag.
yeah. So basically, you were a blonde who dyed your hair brunette.
That's it.
I love it. I love it. You gotta forgive me. I love it. You kinda touched on parts of it, and what I heard you say was that you were welcomed. So,
Yes.
if you don't mind, tell us about that initial experience overall.
Coming from Dallas, I actually have to say I had a much harder time moving from California to Dallas than
Mhm.
I did from Dallas to Panama. When
Mm,
I moved to Dallas, I felt like it was a closed community, and I
mhm.
felt like it took me a long time to make friends. When
Okay.
I moved to Panama, what happens when you're an expat and you move to a place where there's other expats, you're going to make more friends in 1 month than you can make in 5 years in your hometown.
Mhm.
Why? It's because everyone's on this same adventure together. And when you meet someone, it doesn't matter if you meet them, at a restaurant, at a cocktail hour, at the grocery store, at the dog park. You meet people, and right away you're like, oh, hey, hi, what's your name? Where are you from? What are you doing tonight? Hey, there's a party tonight. You want to go? And all of a sudden, before you know it, literally at the end of the month, you'll have 100 new friends. And you won't have as much time. Your social life will be really as full as you want it to be. So yes, there not only are the Latins welcoming the Panamanians, but the expat community is very welcoming. And so I have friends from all over the world, not just Americans. And to me, that's so refreshing. When I want to go on vacation, I go through my Rolodex and I'm like, okay, I have a friend in Germany. I have a friend in France. I have a friend in Monaco. I have a friend in South Africa, and you just pick one and you call them and you go on vacation.
I love it. I love it. So, how did you I mean, obviously, and what you just shared sounds to me like I can imagine it was extremely stressful. I mean, you're talking about passports and customs as you travel. You travel with pets, so that's another complication because they have to go through customs and there's a
Right.
separate, process for that. So how did you manage to make it, if you will, less stressful? I won't say completely stress-free because my imagination is that your fur kids are your babies.
Yeah,
So how did you
absolutely.
yeah. You managed to do that.
I think one of the things when I moved here, really, I didn't know anyone in Panama City. I knew nobody. So coming from Dallas to Panama City, I knew someone who was a little bit further, a couple hours away in Panama, but I
Mhm.
didn't have someone to help me through this process. So I
Mm.
did it by myself. One of the things now in our real estate business, we help you do this because I had what you call a hard landing because I didn't know what I was doing. So now if someone else does it, we kind of help you through this. But what happened was, not only was I selling my house, so I had, my life with my late husband that I had to clear out. That is a stressful process in and of itself. Then I had to get the paperwork for my dogs, which again is stressful. And then I had to move. So there were probably about 17 levels of different stressful things. And I kept saying to myself, once I get to Panama, it's going to be okay. I just have this destination in mind. Once I get there, it's going to be fine. And it wasn't because, again, did I mention I didn't know Spanish? And at the time, this was back in 2012, they didn't even have GPS, there was no Waze, there was no Uber. So all the things that make life so much easier now didn't exist back then. It was so funny. I bought a car, I went through that process of buying a car here, and then I went to buy a nav system, and they would sell me a nav system, but they did not have a map of Panama to put in the nav system. So
What?
I No, yeah, they did it, crazy. I'm like, "Why do you even sell?" And I couldn't even argue with them because I didn't know Spanish, but I was like, in my head, I was saying, "Why do you sell nav systems if you don't have a map of Panama?" But now they've fixed some of these, what I'll call idiosyncrasies. We've caught up to this century here in Panama. But I learned the old school way. So I'd be at my house and I'd pull up Google Maps on my computer and I'd study where I had to go. And then I'd go out and I'd drive and I'd get lost. But I know Panama better than Panamanians because I had to learn it from scratch.
Mm, that is very fair. That's very fair. No, look, you didn't have the cliff notes when you went over. I love
That's
that.
right. That's right.
So you got yourself into real estate or within. So I can imagine real estate works completely different there than it does here. I imagine pricing as well as other considerations, whether it be financing or financial or what have you. So give us some insight into that. What was different about what was one of the things that was probably most a stark difference for you there than it was or is here?
It's a much simpler process. It's actually easier to buy a piece of property than to open a bank account. It's
Really?
no, the contract is about 4 pages long. There's no gotchas. You don't get hand cramps signing. I mean, so they'll do it in 2 languages if you buy something. So it'll be 4 pages in English, 4 pages in Spanish. You sign, done, done. Super easy. Public registry is rules, so you don't have to worry about all the different, "Oh, do I really own this property?" If it's in the public registry, you own it. The other thing is that you have to get what they call good standing certificates. So when you buy a piece of property, the seller will have gotten all the good standing certificates, water, gas, electricity. If it's in a condo building, then the HOA. So when you start, you're starting from scratch. And if the electricity company comes to you and says, "Hey, there's a bill due for $200," you can just say, "No, there isn't. Look, I got these good standings. We're done." So it's a very simple process from on one hand. On the
Wow.
other hand,
Uh-huh.
it's hard for expats to get financing because the banks think, okay, if you're an expat, you don't have any ties to Panama. So even if you were to put 20 or 30% down, it'd be really easy for you to leave. So up until recently, there really weren't many finance options for expats outside of developer financing.
Mm,
And the way developer financing works, it's like a bridge loan. So it'll work for about 5 years. So you pay for the property, your interest rate is about US plus 2 points. So if it's 5 in the US, it's gonna be about 7 in Panama.
mhm,
Simple interest, and you can pay it off whenever. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to show any financial documents. You just sign a document, you get it. If something happens and you default, the developer takes the property back. Easy peasy. So that's easy, but again, it's only for 5 years, and it's not all developers and not all projects. So for somebody who needs financing, if they come to Panama and they meet with me and they say, "Gosh, I need financing," that's the first conversation we need to have because you can't wait till the end. Because if you say you need financing and you wait to the end, you will have wasted your time looking at properties that you can't buy.
mm.
Whereas if you need financing, and then we can just focus on those properties that do offer some sort of financing.
So let me kind of ping you on this. So I've been on your website, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm seeing all these beautiful properties. I'm looking at these prices and I'm like, man, look here, hold on. I might be thinking about being an expat myself. so, 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 so so I see that you guys have like, I mean, obviously you have rentals, you have
Right.
so, do you see a lot of people maybe come visit, stay for a week or a month to kind of get a feel for and then make a decision to purchase? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, in fact, that's the normal situation. Sometimes I'll get people who've never been to Panama and they call me on the phone and they buy something. And I'll even say to them, "I think you should get on a plane before you buy this."
Uh,
Because I want someone when somebody becomes my client, I want them to be my client for a long time. Look, I'm not going anywhere. I love Panama. I'm gonna be here forever. So as long as you're gonna be wanting to have Panama property, I want us to have a relationship. So
mhm,
75% of my clients buy more than one property.
mm,
Maybe not right away. Maybe they start with one, maybe they sell it, buy another one, or maybe they buy 2 or 3. But I'm really in it for the long haul. So what I say is definitely the first thing, get on a plane. It's easy peasy. Get on a plane. We have direct flights almost everywhere. I didn't look, but I bet there is one from Charleston to Panama City, airport code PTY. So an easy flight down, just a couple hours. check it out. Come on vacation. If you love it, then the next step is, hey, do you want a vacation property? Instead of uprooting your life like I did and moving everything all at once, maybe a vacation property is the next step. You can
Mhm.
buy something absolute beachfront starting for under 200,000. Absolute beachfront. You can hear the waves crash. The other great thing about Panama is the carrying costs are so low. We don't have any natural disasters. We are outside of the hurricane zone because we're so close to the equator, and they've never had a recorded hurricane here. There are no tornadoes. There is very little seismic activity. So I grew up in California. So it's nice to see that there are no earthquakes. And because of that, things like insurance is dirt cheap. So let's talk about this hypothetical $200,000 apartment that's beachfront. You're going to pay about $200 per year in fire and structure insurance. That's it, 200 bucks a year.
So, so first of all, when you say $200, is that 200 US or is that 200?
Yeah. The money that's used in Panama is the US dollar.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right?
I
My
just fall out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the currency is stable, the water's clean. This is what has put Panama on the list, the top of the best places to live and retire, because everything is so easy, especially for Americans. So, clean water, US dollar as the currency. The insurance is 1/10 of 1%. So, again, $200,000 apartment value, $200 a year in insurance. Because again, everything's made of concrete here. There's no natural disasters. Labor's cheap. Really, nothing's going to happen, which is why once you've been here 10 or 12 years, you just feel like you're mailing them the $200 because nothing ever happens. Then you also have your HOA, which is very inexpensive. So in that $200,000 apartment, you're going to be paying about 100 to $150 a month in HOA. That will cover everything except for electricity and then your internet and cable. Your electricity will probably be less than $100 a month, and your cable will definitely be less than $100 a month. So far, you've got about $350, $400 a month in carrying costs, all in. So if you're going to use that as a vacation property and you were going to come down, let's say it came down 3 months a year and you rented it out the rest of the year, you probably only have to rent it, what, 1 or 2 months of the year to cover the carrying costs of that property so that you get to vacation for free. So this is why people are choosing Panama right now.
You got me thrown down. So, I mean, because I'm over here tripping, I'm over here thinking like, okay, hold on, let me start looking at flights. Because as I've, searched your website, I'm seeing properties a month. You can rent for a month. And I'm like, well, we got to take a vacation. And why
Yeah.
go here and stay in this oceanfront, ocean view, vast view penthouse for this? I'm like, well, we're gonna spend this for 4, 5 days somewhere else.
That's
Like,
right. And my sound engineer just handed me his phone. You can get a flight from Charleston to PTY for $387 round trip.
look here, look here.
And
Somebody
on Delta,
I'm
on
gonna have to call
American, or
somebody
on
to tell
Copa.
somebody I'm gonna have to tell somebody to bring a spatula in here and scrape me up in a minute, because I'm oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Melissa, we need to come see you. I'm looking for our
Absolutely.
listeners. We need to go see Melissa. Let's look here. As we used to say back in the day, let's posse up because we need to come see you for real, for real. So, Melissa, so I'm so intrigued. I mean, I'm excited now. So, for our listeners, guys, y'all know how this is, but you need to excuse me because I'll get all animated and start bouncing around over here because this is what I love. This is what real estate can do. That's what excites me. It's because it's what it can do. We always think singular and we're narrow-minded in our focus, but we expand our thought process. You can live abroad, you can have a life that others dream of, and you can do that and still remain in and around the real estate vehicle. I'm loving this. I
That's
am
right.
loving this. So why should matter of fact, I'm gonna tie in two things. One,
Mhm.
people should consider Panama. I think we've definitely gotten that on the
Right.
table, right?
Right.
So as they consider Panama, let's be real. So what are the drawbacks?
Okay.
Like, what's the things they should be mindful of that are contrast to what they may experience in the States? Because obviously cost of living is lower in some respects than what it is in other places, other large metropolitan areas. So what should people be considering otherwise?
So, and to touch on that a little bit, my life here is about 50% of what my life in Dallas was like, and I live a very similar lifestyle. I drive the same type of car. I go out to dinner the same amount of times. I drink the same kind of wine. I buy the same type of clothes. So it's an apples to apples lifestyle, except better. So, for example, there I had a housekeeper that would come, twice a month. And I used to dream about once a week. Now I have a housekeeper who comes 6 days a week. So, my house is always ready for company.
Mm,
It's
mhm,
just a lot of those little things, I have a driver when I don't feel like messing with traffic. Uh,
mm.
they charge $35 a day, and
Hold
it's
on,
just
$35 a day in their own car?
no,
Or
no, in
your
my
car?
car, in my car.
Okay, but that's still worth it.
And especially if I'm busy, if I have clients, then I wanna focus on something else, it's worth it for me to have somebody drive us. So, yeah, for me, it's absolutely worth it. And just whenever you need help, again, the Latins are so lovely. If you have a flat tire, someone's gonna stop and help you. And
Mhm,
then, it's very nice to tip them $5 or something, but they're doing it because they have such a family-oriented culture, and
mhm,
it's in their culture to be loving and helpful. When you go to the doctor visit is gonna be $40, and that's not a copay, that's the entire cost, and they're gonna spend about 45 minutes with you, and they're gonna care about you, and they're
mm,
gonna follow up with a text the next day, "How are you doing? How are you feeling?"
mhm,
And I was actually interviewing a doctor on my podcast, and I just looked at him and I was like, "How could you make a living?" And he just said, "Look, we want clients for life, and we're not here to make so much money and be all about us. We're here to help our community." And once you live sort of like I've been living in this world now for 13 years, I can't imagine it any other way. I can't imagine going to a doctor that doesn't really care about me. That sort of makes me sad. So,
mhm,
yeah, the life here is great. Now, going back to the question, the bad things. So, there is what I'll call the mañana attitude. That mañana in Spanish means tomorrow,
mm,
but when you say if it's Monday and you say mañana, it doesn't necessarily mean Tuesday. It could mean Wednesday, it could be Saturday, it could be next week. It really just means not today. Like, I'm a type A plus personality, you have to leave that at the border. So, I've toned myself down to an A minus because you're not gonna change that, you know? Sometimes it's traffic, sometimes and again, because people are family oriented, if someone has a sick child, that comes first. Their sick child comes before your broken plumbing.
mhm,
Um, one of the things I think that I bring to the table isn't just my knowledge about real estate, you know, after doing this for a decade, but it's my Rolodex because now we have people who, if you really need something today, 90% of the time we can have it done because we've got the people who will be responsive because if they aren't, they won't work with us anymore. But
mhm,
that it took us a while to get that, as a business to get that Rolodex of people who would be very responsive.
mhm,
So, so that's one thing. The next thing, they don't have a sophisticated trash pickup system. So, in some areas that are poorer, the people don't have the extra money to pay for trash pickup. So, there's more trash in some areas on the side of the road than there are in others. You go
mhm,
to nice areas, there's nothing. It's like Disneyland. But as you're touring the country, you're going to see a little bit of everything. You're going to see areas like the Fendi building where it is multi-million dollar penthouses and all Bentleys and Porsche Cayennes. And then you're
mhm,
also going to see, some A-frame houses where everybody has their own rooster and chickens and, maybe they're cooking on a fire, and an actual fire because they don't have a stove. So you do see the whole gamut here, which is but one thing I gotta say I liked a lot was during COVID, I had a fear that, when people weren't allowed to work, that
mhm,
there was going to be violence because, with poverty comes violence.
mhm,
And here, there wasn't because people just sort of hunkered down with their own chickens and ate their own eggs and ate their own stuff that they grew on their little plot of land and cooked over the fire. And they sat in their hammock all day and they were okay and they weren't angry. It was so refreshing during that time. It was probably I got all of my US contacts to donate money because there was no system like there was in the US. So we
Mhm.
were supporting about 17 families during that time, and the people are just so gracious and grateful.
So that takes me back and reminds me of and everything you just talked about, cities where our or towns that our show airs in. So we're on, 2 radio stations and published as a podcast. Where I'm from home, if you will, the home I remember was just like you talked about.
Uh-huh.
We'll get to it directly. It wasn't mañana, it was directly.
Right.
So
Right.
and that might be 5 minutes, that might be 5, 10 days, but we'll
Exactly.
get to it directly, and that's what I remember growing up, and I remember that if somebody broke down on the side of the road, somebody stopped,
Mhm.
hey, check on them and got out their car, and they'd be out if they was out there, both of them up under the hood trying to fix it or whatever it was.
That's
That's what
right.
I grew up and I remember. You didn't leave people, behind, and people tended to themselves, but they watched out for everybody else. So I'm look here, you just really took me back with that. You just gave me another reason. You ain't give me another reason not to come. You actually gave me more of a reason too, because that's how we're supposed to be. So look here, I appreciate that. I'm so glad that you're having that existence and that experience. So,
Yeah.
Melissa, we have quickly gotten to today's show, but how can people get in contact with you? You guys do property management, you help people with rentals and all that stuff. And obviously, you help people purchase as well. So, how can people get in contact with you so they can come experience Panama through your eyes?
The best thing to do, go to my website, choosepanama.com. That's choosepanama.com. You could get a free copy of my book, Panama Uncorked. This is going to give you a really brief, easy to read overview of what it's like to live in Panama as an expat. And then if you want to dive a little deeper, I also have a podcast on YouTube that gives you a lot of visuals of what things look like here. So while I'm talking about the coffee, I'm showing you coffee plants. And while I'm talking about the infrastructure, I'm showing you the cables under the sea. So if you want to see that, that's on YouTube. And again, it's at Choose Panama and it's called the Panama Podcast. So you can do either one of those. If you're interested in Panama at all, again, come visit. It's 400 bucks on it to get a plane ticket. Tell me you come from Corwyn Show. I'll get you a great deal on a rental apartment that's beachfront in a resort right in Panama City.
Love it. I love it. Look here. Let's posse up. Let's go.
Posse up.
Melissa, thank you so much. This has been like you've definitely given me something to do. As I look to travel, as I travel for like different experiences, but I love beautiful places. So I'm gonna be very transparent and tell you that you have placed Panama at the top of my list. After this next one, that's where I gotta come. So yeah, we'll be in touch because we
Yeah.
gotta come and check it out and definitely gotta connect because I want to see it like you see it.
Yes, yes. Well, definitely contact me directly. Again, go to my website. I have a team of people that are so responsive. We hopefully can answer a lot of your questions even before you think to ask them.
I love it. So, Melissa, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show with us today. Thank you for not only your insight, but your energy, because you've definitely brought a smile to my face and sunshine, I believe, to this show. So, thank you for sharing that from beautiful Panama City today.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure being here. Talk to you soon, Corwin. Bye, everyone.
So, for our listeners, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all know what I say. Y'all know how I feel. Always keep it 100% and always make it real by telling you that I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.